What is going on, my Nintendo fans? Hope you're all doing fantastic today. Forgot to do the intro last time. I'm trying to make it a new thing, so, yeah. Anyways, last video I did top 10 best Bowser levels. In this video, I'm ranking all the Bowser Castle tracks in Mario Kart. Because reasons. I don't think this needs much explanation, so let's just get right onto it. Does anybody really like this one? I could see some people disagreeing with this being considered the worst one in my opinion, but there's basically no challenge. There's really just a couple thwomps, a couple of narrow roads, and that's all there is. The only positive thing I can say about this one is that the aesthetic is really cool. This is the first Bowser Castle track, which is kind of why it's just There's virtually no challenge, just a couple of thwomps, and that's pretty much it. I mean, compared to other Bowser Castle tracks, that is. And yeah, there are a couple tight turns and all that. But I'm not really impressed with this one. I mean, I know that wouldn't be expected, but this one's just boring to me. Although SNES Bowser Castle 2 is much more interesting to me. This one has couple more tight turns, has some areas where you can go left or right, and there's even a fake turn where it's just a dead end. I mean, none of these are great additions, but I mean, compared to other Bowser Castle tracks across the SNES and GBA games, it's not terrible. This one, again, just okay. The only reason I'd say it's better than the last two I mentioned is just because it's very well paced. I find there's not really a lot of sections where you're moving slow. I mean, that could also be said about the other ones too, but this one, that's really all there is to say. You know, the best way to describe it, in my opinion, is solid. It's just more solid than the last ones I've mentioned, so that's pretty much it. I like this one because it has an open section where there's a lot of speed boost. Other than that, it's very boring, like the other ones. That's all there is to say about it. Out of all the SNES Bowser Castles, I'd say Bowser Castle 3 is probably the best. It's the most solid. It doesn't have a dead end. I mean, I know I said I liked the dead end before, but that was more just creative. It's not really a good addition to the track. And yeah, all in all, SNES Bowser Castle 3 just kind of stands out a bit more, which is why it's ranked better than the last ones I've mentioned. It's not great still, but I mean, for the SNES and GBA standards of Bowser Castles, I'd say this one's pretty solid. And finally, we're at the end of the SNES and GBA road. GBA Bowser Castle 4 is hands down the best one. It's probably the only one I'd say that is above average. It just has a lot to avoid. It feels the most distinct out of all of the SNES and GBA Bowser Castles combined. And all in all, it's not a bad track. So, gotta give it to this one. It's pretty good. It's good to finally not be talking about a SNES or GBA Bowser Castle track now. And to start off with the more traditional ones, I would say, N64 Bowser Castle is pretty solid. It's not great, to be honest. I'm never really too excited to play this one, but again, it's not bad. It is kind of bland. You are just kind of driving in empty areas most of the time. But I think that kind of is what they were going for. The entire castle just feels empty. Not only the castle, but the area you're in. You're just surrounded by nothing but lava. And to be honest, it's just awesome. To be honest, I love that feel when it comes to a Bowser Castle. Most Bowser Castle tracks in Mario Kart go for epic. They go for everything that they can throw at you. They go for a lot of lava. They go for a lot of things to avoid. They go for a lot. This one keeps it nice and simple and just makes everything around you feel empty. And of course, yes, the choir singing in the background definitely adds to that feeling. This Bowser Castle always stood out to me, and to be honest, it's because it does a good job of being unique. The only part that doesn't feel empty, and this isn't a bad thing by the way, is the section with the thwomps. It's good to have some obstacles, because without at least some obstacles, then it get pretty boring. And the thwomps are a good obstacle. As annoying as they can be at times, they add a nice challenge to the track. Also, that thwomp behind the prison cell thing, you know what I'm trying to say, that's always stood out to me. There's a lot of rumors around that, which I won't go into because I don't have the time. But it is interesting, and again, it adds to the aesthetic of this track and the overall feel that the developers were going for. I can tell quite a few people are going to be mad this isn't number 1. But I do still love GCN Bowser Castle to death. This Bowser Castle is just, it's awesome. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just so good. That's pretty much the only way there is to describe it, but obviously I have to go more in detail. So you start off in front of Bowser's Castle, then you drive in, big surprise, and then you can go left or right, there are thwomps, and then you have to make a tight turn, which I always fail and fall into the lava. And then you drive down some more, then you go into this area where there's a lot of lava, and there's these ramps you have to go off of, and then eventually it leads you up into this room where there's a giant circulating fire thing, and then you grab an item, and then stuff, blah blah blah, and then you end up outside the castle and all that, making some tight turns, and then you see a Bowser statue, and then you go on. You can either go the long way or the short way. I always go the long way because the short way requires you to be good at the game, which I'm not. And then you gotta go through a bunch of lava spewing out of the ground, and then you repeat the castle again. It's really good. Like I've said, it's probably, out of all the Bowser Castles, the one that I would recommend starting with if you've never played a Bowser Castle track in Mario Kart, because it's a perfect difficulty to start with. It's not too easy, not too hard. And it just kind of gets all the basics down for a good Bowser Castle track. So if you haven't played a Bowser Castle track before in Mario Kart, start with this one. This one is probably the best one to start with. Yes, before you get mad, this could be interchanged with GCN Bowser Castle. But DS Bowser Castle to me is probably slightly better, in my opinion. You start off going into Bowser's Castle, of course, big surprise. Drive around and some stuff, I mean, it's Bowser's Castle, what do you expect? And then you go up and stuff, there's a lot of obstacles as usual. And then it gets to a part where there's this spinning kind of area where the ground is spinning. Now you can go the long way, which is the way I go, because I didn't know about the shortcut till recently, because I'm a big idiot. Because if you keep going along the circular thing, you find a shortcut. I've never really known there was a shortcut there, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very stupid. But yeah, there's a shortcut. But the part that's always interested me the most is the part where you're driving above the ground and you're on the thing that moves depending on where you are on it, like where you're putting the most force on. It gets all sciencey. Like, I don't know how to describe that thing. It's like the cylinder that moves when you're on it. Whatever, if you've played it, you know what I mean. And then it gets to a part where there's a bunch of lava below you, and you have to go off ramps onto these moving platforms, and then the lap, it ends and you keep going. So, yeah, DS Bowser Castle to me is pretty solid. Definitely not the best, but definitely not the worst. Yeah, and I think it's slightly better than GCN Bowser Castle because, I don't know, I just find this one more engaging for some reason. That's just me, though. Because again, they could be interchanged, as I do find them to be quite similar. At this point, to me, any one of these Bowser Castles could be considered number 1. But if I'm forced to rank them, I'd say out of the top 3, 3DS Bowser Castle is probably the worst. I find this Bowser Castle track to be very unmemorable for some reason. I find it's always the one I have trouble remembering. Like, there are times where I completely forget what it's like. And I don't know what it is about it, but it just kind of isn't memorable. So why is it so close to number 1? Well, just because something isn't memorable doesn't mean it's not good. Like, yeah, that's the best way to say it, I guess. This Bowser Castle track, while definitely not the best, well, I mean, like I said, it could be considered the best in my opinion. It was once my favorite. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. It's definitely not the worst, and it has some really, really creative obstacles. So, for starters, you fly into, or not, you don't fly in, that's not the part I'm thinking of. You drive into the castle. There are different paths you can take, but it doesn't matter which one you take. Then you just kind of continue driving. There are shortcuts you can take, but you risk getting burned by lava. Then there is a tunnel, a wooden tunnel you can drive in, which is cool. I like that one. I like that part. And then you drive into water. I believe this is the only Bowser Castle track to have water. And I love that. It's not the kind of thing you'd expect from a Bowser Castle track, which to me always kind of stands out. And then you continue driving along, then you fly into the castle. That's me being stupid when I said you could fly before, because you don't start by flying. Or should I say gliding, because it's technically a glider. Anyways, I'm getting off topic and just making myself look stupider. So, this is a good Bowser Castle track. I like it. For some reason, it's just not memorable to me, but I still think it's very underrated. So anyways, let's move on. Now, Mario Kart Wii's Bowser Castle is absolutely insane. And obviously, that's why I like it. You start off by driving into Bowser's Castle. Yes, I said that a million times. That's how most of the modern Mario Karts have you start off. Anyways, you do this cool kind of dip, and then you do a trick into Bowser's Castle. It's really cool. And there are all these kind of like basic sections where you're just kind of driving and avoiding thwomps. But they're always really fun. But the part that makes this Bowser's Castle so unbelievably awesome is the part with the Bowser statue. It's constantly spewing fireballs at you at rapid speed, so you have to do half pipes, tricks, whatever, to avoid it. And you're constantly trying to avoid the fireballs. And that section, while to most Mario Kart Wii players would probably be fine, to me it's always been stressful because I suck at the half pipes. Because I never use them, because they always seem so much slower to me. I mean, they are, but you are forced to use them here unless you want to get your face burned off by a Bowser statue. Anyways, and then you do that. But that one section makes this Bowser Castle so unbelievably good. And don't get me wrong, the rest of it is amazing too. But this one section is probably one of the best sections in any of the Mario Kart games. And that alone just makes this Bowser Castle awesome. Mario Kart 8's Bowser Castle. Yes, this one is at number 1, in case you couldn't tell. So yes, I'll just get this out of the way. I had an extremely tough time choosing between this one and Mario Kart Wii's Bowser Castle. But I think this one, for me, is probably objectively better. But if I could, I would give them both number 1. But I can't, so. Anyways. You basically start off by, yep, big surprise coming up. Spoiler alert, you drive into Bowser's Castle. I hope you clicked away in time to get rid of that huge spoiler. Anyways, on lap 3, there are lasers coming at you, which I find really cool. Then you just kind of drive kind of through some obstacles, or at some points there are spiky balls. I don't know how else to describe them. There's probably an actual name for them, but let's call them spiky balls for now. They swing from left to right, and you have to avoid them, and there are times where you have to avoid rotating fire. But the section that everyone remembers is the giant molten Bowser that's punching the road. Now, I will admit, this isn't as good as the Bowser statue in Mario Kart Wii. It's not nearly as intense. It's much easier to avoid. So, it's not as good. But it's kind of the rest of the track that makes up for that. For me, at least. After you avoid the giant molten Bowser statue, you glide to the outside part where you have to avoid boulders. And then it all repeats again. But the reason I like this one more than Mario Kart Wii, or at least the main reason, is just because I find this one a bit easier to play. Or I shouldn't describe it that way. I just think it's almost more accessible. I feel like Mario Kart Wii's was kind of almost a little bit too high on the difficulty, whereas this one's a little bit toned down, but in a good way. So I don't know. That's kind of how I differentiate the two. Again, they could be totally interchanged. It was a very tough decision, but I think Wii U Bowser Castle is the best one. Anyways, all of you are probably tired of hearing me talk about Bowser Castle tracks, and to be honest, I'm kind of tired of talking about them, so... Anyways, nah, I'm just kidding. I like talking about anything video game related, especially when it comes down to Mario. I mean, what gamer doesn't, am I right? Alright, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.